Already fucked up. Can't even get my sources up to be able to get my intro going. So we're not going to worry too much about that. Let's just get the ball rolling. No intro today. I'll just drop it in. So for those listening in audio, if they do want to check the video, it's on YouTube. So like and subscribe to the channel, JB Podcast. Here with Ollie Wells at the moment. And yeah, thank you for joining me today, brother.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, man. It's been obviously we spoke a little bit in the gym and stuff like that, and it's an honour to host you, to be honest, because I know you're an intelligent guy. We've had a chat
So,
about certain subjects and certain things, and you're always speaking wisdom, which is always nice and refreshing to hear, rather than those sort of pessimists. You seem more like an optimist, which is great. For those listening, tell them about yourself and your background.
yeah, my name's Oliver Wells. I'm 19, born in London, raised in the southeast, on the southeast coast of England, a place called Hastings. Yeah, I met Jay through the gym. Um, I love working out. I love training, exercising. It's one of the outlets that I express myself. And another outlet that I express myself is through my writing, through the medium of my writing. Um, and in my writing, I talk about my theories of life, how I like to live my life, my personal philosophies, my concepts of my reality. Yeah, just about nature and our nature as human beings as well.
Yeah, I mean they're interesting subjects to cover because I think there's a lot of variety in how people view the world and our reality, and like I can say me and you are very different in say personalities. Like when we've spoke before, I've been a bit
Mm.
more like, yeah, this won't happen because of this, and a bit like negative, and you're like, yeah, but bro, they're just excuses, like come on, man. You need to see it from this like side of the fence, and I think that's always like an interesting take and a way I would like to think, because I used to think that way, and for some reason it's just changed. Like I'm just such a more negative Nelly. But what inspired you to get into your writing and start your own blog and so on? What kind of triggered you to get going?
Well, I mean, I've always been quite well. First of all, I've always been a writer. Like when I was a kid, I was very creative through the medium of writing, and always loved telling stories, and I had a vivid imagination. But as well as that, I've always been quite an empath. Always been quite sympathetic to other people's stories and to life. I've always loved nature and been quite receptive to nature itself. And that kind of went away when I was about, early teenage years, as it would when I was about 13. And then from that point, I had a really turbulent school life and outside personal life. I got into quite a lot of trouble and mixed with the wrong crowds and did the wrong things. And in that state there, I was in a very dark mindset. And my situation, my life situation was dark. And I found myself at a certain point, around about 16, at a crossroads. I brought myself to a path as a young man. I said, if I continue on this path, if I continue on this path of negativity and kind of destruction and pessimism, also like you're saying, then it's only going to lead one way. I'm only going to end up in prison or end up doing something else and getting in trouble. So I made the decision as the captain of my own ship to steer, in my opinion, the right way. The more peaceful and kind way. And that came one day when I was about 16. I just had this sort of epiphany that there was something bigger than myself. And up until that point, when I've been in this kind of bullish state of stampeding through life, being very angry, being very pessimistic, not really caring about myself, and of course, as a result of that, not caring about the world around me, or even the people that I held dear. And suddenly, one day, that I just got hit with this realization that there's something bigger than myself. I'd just got into a long-term relationship with my partner that I'm still with now, and I felt love, like proper love. It sounds soppy, but I felt proper love, and I admitted that this this feeling that I felt for myself, sorry, for my partner, was bigger than anything I'd ever experienced before, bigger than all of the anger that I had been previously reveling in, you know. And from that, I found a sort of faith. I looked into different faiths. You know, I've been not brought up a Christian, but been brought up in a Christian culture, so I've been exposed to it. I looked at Islam. That wasn't for me, and I just found a part of the spirituality. I don't label it, you know, but yeah, you know, philosophy and based around how I live my life. That's my personal beliefs, you know, my personal beliefs status.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, because it's funny because my situation's very similar. Like, I was at the age of 16. I was going out into town in Hastings with friends that are older than me. Got arrested, got put in the cells, got let out, and kind of just like with a little slap on the wrist, nothing on my record or anything like that. And then
Mm,
a couple of my friends come over to my house, and we were like chilling, drinking, and I was outside my house. Some guy come by that sort of didn't really like, and so forth. And I was with my friend, alcohol fueled, did something well
mm,
stupid. Anyways, like I was proper horrible. Like my little brother come out, I was really horrible to him. Like whilst this is
mm,
all going on, you know,
mm,
angry, just like
mm,
naughty at school as well. But
mm,
so I think all that channeled through, and then I was it was about 2 weeks later. I was at my house and get a knock on the door, and it's like it must be about 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I
mm.
wake up a little bit, and I'm like, is that knocking on the door? And my little brother comes in my room, and
Oh,
he's like, bro, the police are here. Like the police
mm.
are here for you. And I was like, oh fuck,
Terrible.
like shit, you
But
know.
you know
So
what? I find sometimes we need that wake up call. We need that you know that slap on the wrist to wake us up and realize that we have to realize that there's consequences to our actions.
yeah,
You know,
that was it,
realize
man.
there's
Like I saw my mum. She was well, as I was getting arrested from my house, put in the car. Like she was crying. You know, the police were like, "Your son's going to jail." Like she's
mm,
crying, and I was looked at my mum. I was like, "Man, I don't want this for my mum." Do you know what I mean? Like my mum's fucking raised me well. Like she's never
yeah,
slapped me
yeah,
about and shit. Like
yeah,
you know that feeling of love for my mum. I'm
mm,
like, man, I don't
mm,
need this. So
mm,
sat in the cells, like got interviewed, had like a big reflection of myself, and I was just like, man, if I if I don't get in trouble for this shit, I'm
mm,
changing. Like you know, and if I do get in trouble, I'm still changing. Like, and then from
yeah,
then on, I changed, man. Like I've stopped drinking alcohol pretty much. Only like on an occasion every now and then because it just made me a dick. And I was just like,
mm,
it's not about this life. Do you know what I mean? I started
mm,
meditating. Um, you know all of those things, and like you said, it's not a specific religion, but you just know that there's like it's like this spiritual sort of aspect of things. You know, be
yeah,
humble
of
to people, be nice. You know,
course, of
um,
course.
the energy, like you can control your energy. Do you know what I mean? To be more positive, more
I don't know if
less negative.
I don't know if you've ever looked into a philosophy called Stoicism. Do
Never,
you know
man.
Stoicism?
No, what is
Stoic.
it?
So it's a Hellenistic philosophy. So it's an ancient Greek philosophy, but it was made famous by the Romans, really. And there's quite a lot of modern day Stoics. You know, there's famous like NBA and NFL coaches that are Stoics quite openly. But I think the famous one of all time is a guy called Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman emperor, and he adopted this Stoic virtue. And it's something that I like to live by. So now there's going to be people here that are going to quote me for being wrong because I'm not a philosopher or historian. But the fundamentals, for what I know, the fundamentals are just to have a moral framework, to have a moral template, and know who you are. And if you know who you are and you act in accordance with your true nature, then you know, and you know that you're doing right by yourself and other people around you, then you're doing well. And that's how Stoics hold themselves. You know, they act in accordance with their moral framework, and yeah, they're just. They try to be just and humble. And I feel like I adopted quite a lot of that. That and Buddhism, they're really closely correlated. You know, trying to not have too much impact on the world in a negative manner. You know, and always, of course, we're not saints. None of us are saints. And we all have negative days. We all have days where we feel bad, and maybe we're expressing that out into the world a little bit more than we should be. You know, when we're feeling kind of dull and sulking around. But I try just to make sure that always, no matter how I feel, I try and never act negatively out towards other people as much as I can. You know, try and stay in tune with what I believe is right to myself. You know, and that to me is being kind, and compassionate, and trying to, share wisdom and just have a good time with people,
No, I agree, man. I mean, I think when you're so many people won't even be aware that their shit that's going on in their lives is then being projected onto other people. So, for example, someone at work or whatever, they've had like a negative morning. They go to work and they're like stressing and moaning towards everyone else, being negative, making maybe like a little remark that they necessarily wouldn't have made if they was in a positive mood. But by being aware of that state of like mind, like what you're saying, that state of mind, that negative side of it, and being like, all right, now I'm going to try and focus on just putting some positivity out still, like makes the change. Do you know what I mean? Just by being
know.
aware that your shit mood doesn't have to be projected on anyone else. You can kind of deal with it and be kind.
Of course, yeah, yeah. And also, I think a big realization to me is that, no, there's no such thing as a negative occurrence. I feel like positives can be found out of every negative situation, and a lot of the times that can be hard to unveil what that positive truly is. But, there's always lessons and there's always revelations that can be found in dark times and negative moods. And also, I believe those negative, so-called negative emotions that you feel, anger or sadness or things like that, can really be focused and channeled in a particular direction, which is a focal point of my writing. Like with training, it's a good reference. Like with training, when you're angry, I can train. I don't know about you, but I train so ferociously when I'm angry. I really channel that into having the best workout I possibly can. And then at the end of it, a positive has come out of that anger.
Mm.
So not only is it subsided the anger, but now I'm also positive as well.
Yeah, it's that like crazy sort of focus where
Mm,
you're almost like, I just need to go and work out, and you just focused on smashing that set out, lifting some weights, and relieving that tension. Your cardio will be 10 times better because you're in
yeah,
that negative mood. You're like, I'm just gonna keep going, I'm gonna keep
yeah, yeah,
cycling or
yeah,
whatever. And then
yeah,
after
yeah.
you like take that kind of deep breath out, and you're just like, oh,
Mm,
like it makes you see so much clearer. Because like I can use a good reference from my own personal life with it is I was like mentally down in the dumps a bit, having real negative self talk and so forth. And I ended up my car went to the garage, and the garage was like 45 minutes from my house. So I was like,
mm,
right, I'm gonna walk my dog like all the way back from the garage, and I've got to pick my car up later, so I'm gonna walk down there again. And like 45 minutes of power walking up the hill. I'm stressed because my
mm,
car's broke. I ain't got money to pay for it. And by the time I got back, I'm like feeling motivated. I'm like, car's broke, don't matter. Like, I'll just pay the
mm,
cash, get it
yeah,
done. I saw things
mm,
more clearly and more of a positive light. And I'm like, all that just from 45 minutes, 30 minutes of just power walking. You know what I mean?
mm,
So definitely
yeah,
there's benefits of exercise on the mental state of the brain, as well as understanding that negativity or that moment, actually there's a positive there to be found, because you can use that to
yeah.
fuel your workout and achieve your goal.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, also another addition of exercise that's so great, and I think something that's really relevant to today's times, is the fact that it provides direction. And I feel so many of us are direction is absent from our lives. We so many of us get up and go to a job we're not really interested in, and work that 9 to 5, and then for a little bit of money, go back home, watch TV, and then they all just keep cycling in that routine. And I mean, time can really easily be lost in that, and you can also as an individual feel lost and stagnated. And working out, say take hypertrophy, the gaining of muscle. I mean, that gives you a clear direction. What do you need to do that? You need to do a certain amount of sets, a certain amount of exercise, this many times a week, and eat this much food, and it keeps you disciplined. And it gives you that direction. And I mean, if you look at the epidemic that's going on with the stabbings and shootings in London and other cities in the UK, I find I think a big remedy for that could be giving some of these young men direction through gym and sports and things like that. Because I think in this society, those young men, those particular young men, haven't got particular direction. And I know how that feels, so that's why it's quite a relevant issue for me. I know how that feels to be angry at the world, feel like there's nothing for you here, and so angry that you could take someone's life.
I think as
That,
I I can agree with you on that, because I think they kind of fall into this gang life and crime life because there is nothing else to do, and it's a routine
Mm,
to wake up,
mm,
meet your boys, sell some
mm,
drugs, like do
mm,
something for money. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're pissed off. When you're pissed off, like, you can do so much harm. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I have an
cool.
argument with someone, you can slap them. Do you know what I mean? And then you're like, why did I do that? But it's just because you're angry. Like, and then you're like, man,
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that after. And so these things can happen. You know, lack of community centres that are being
Mm,
closed down, no funding. You know, no place to go, socialise, talk to people. You
mm,
know, community support workers and so forth. Like, everything in that area is so underfunded, and yet we kind of think that there's a one trick that's going to solve that issue. But I think it's what you said, like understanding that these issues are because their lack of routine, anger towards the world, nothing to do. Do
mm,
you know what I mean?
mm,
Like, no one
mm.
wants to sit in a
Also,
box.
yeah, of course, and primarily that demographic is young men, and I feel like young men need direction. Young men have a lot of energy, and that energy, when not controlled and disciplined, can turn into violence and things like that. As you know, I mean, I know you used to do some boxing, and having that outlet of energy and a little bit of controlled aggression. I don't like to call it aggression because when I do a little bit of Muay Thai sparring and things like that, I'm not trying to be angry, but it's controlled energy expenditure, you know, the type of energy expenditure that you wouldn't have in your day-to-day life. I feel like they benefit a lot from things like that, sports, just for the same reason you can't get good at anything unless you sacrifice your time, to practice that art or skill. So I feel like that's definitely a sport would be a good solution for that,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, it's like what you're saying about that aggression in any pretty much any sport that I can think of. If you're aggressive and angry, you'll
Mm,
lose. Like, whether you
mm.
do boxing, karate, Muay Thai, whatever, it's about controlling that aggression and using it in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. Of
do
course.
you know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
I wanna beat your ass so bad. I'm not gonna come in here swinging because I
yeah,
hate you.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because then I'm probably gonna get knocked out, which will probably happen. So
Mm,
instead, I'm gonna control this aggression. I'm gonna
for
think
sure.
of the positive of beating you and having my hand raised, which would be
Mm,
so much like better, right? Because you didn't get knocked out. You've got that kind of one-up, egotistical thing a little bit, but you're like, yeah, I'm better than you, mate. I just schooled you. So it's a better to control it, and I agree with you,
yeah.
man. Like, sports and things like that are definitely something that these young men should look into and use whatever hatred to the world that they've got because they
Mm,
feel like life's failed them, maybe,
mm,
to actually benefit themselves and
mm.
progress and have a goal and a target.
Well, also, I mean, in schools, in the education system, which is obviously is a fundamental um, aspect in their lives and in everybody's lives, as a young person. I believe the teaching of philosophies, like I've been talking about Stoicism and Buddhism and things like that, philosophies that teach you how to deal with your anger, because there's none. You're never taught that in school. You're not taught how to meditate. I know you meditate, just simple mindfulness, because that, and how to just deal with it and cope with it and maybe alleviate yourself of some of that stress, because that stress builds up, it builds up over time. And if you're in a particularly bad situation, it'll be, exponentially, it'll build up. And a lot of these people don't know how to express themselves, so they express it out. There's an anger extrovertly, almost anger at the world, and maybe they'll hit people and things like that. And there's other people who are angry at themselves, and you take a very, maybe they're the people that commit suicide or self-harm and things like that. These are all really big issues because we're not being taught how to deal with our emotions. You know, I feel like that would be such a fundamental thing if we were taught philosophies and just how to channel ourselves,
Yeah, I
and just
mean,
be more.
go on, mate. Sorry.
No, go on, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, they've just started implementing it in schools within the UK now, which is mindfulness. Because my mum works in schools with children that do have behaviour issues,
Mm,
and they're kind of doing things now with like breathing techniques to try and calm themselves, and like
mm,
apps and things like that for mindfulness. So they're kind of getting on top of it now, but it's kind of too late for a lot of people that are now 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and plus, you know what I mean? Because we never had that. So
Mm.
I agree with you, like, 100%, and I'm glad that schools have like just brought it in. But I think that this should have happened quite a long time ago.
Course. Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like because in our even in our recent history, school systems have been tainted. You know, faith schools, you know, Christian schools, or you know, maybe Islamic schools, and the any sort of spiritual education has been centered around those faiths. You know, so I know that I went to a Church of England primary school, and there was always a priest who came in and you know preached to us. But for a lot of people, that doesn't cut it. You know, that's not practical enough, myself included. And I'm sure you find mindfulness meditation is extremely practical. You know, it has a practical, physiological even benefit. You know, in just calming us down, making us relaxed. You know, in a pure sense. So I believe that's probably why it wasn't instated because they were tainted with the Church of England or Islamic school system.
No, I agree. I mean, if you look at a workout, for example, like you have that breathing sort of technique when you're pushing those reps out, you know,
Mm,
holding your breath for a second,
mm,
exploding. Do you know what I mean? It's all that kind of our DNA, our system is like reacting to that, you know, relieving that stress, that deep breath in, holding it, breathing out, pushing, squatting. You're part of a group, you know, you're part of
mm,
a fucking community in the gym, you know, as you know
mm.
from our gym that you come to, like everyone's friendly, you know, you pretty much know every face there, or you've seen at least
Cool.
everyone there. You're part of that community and that belonging. But that mindfulness thing obviously being used in schools is great, but then you can also get the same thing from a workout and from participating in sports and participating
Mm,
in
mm.
fighting and so on, because in boxing and Muay Thai and stuff, I don't want to say fighting like go out on the street
Yeah.
and have a fight, but you know what I mean, in those things,
Yeah,
because you're
yeah,
learning to channel yourself, control yourself, you're learning to breathe, like you're learning to center yourself in that moment. You're not thinking about tomorrow or anything, you're
yeah, yeah.
there and then, you're training, you're whatever, you know. And I
Mm,
think when you don't have that routine in your life, or that goal or whatever, you'll find yourself sitting around thinking about tomorrow, like what am I going to do tomorrow to better myself? Oh, same shit. You know, having
cool.
these little things, these little sports, these little goals, these little competitions and so forth are all things that are going to help you to be more mindful, live in the moment and be now.
Mm. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Because I write about the fact that I believe everybody needs a why. You know, I like to use the analogy of smoking. You know, quitting smoking is hard because I used to smoke, you know, for about 5 years, and I know it was tough. And I was only smoking 5 years. I know people that smoke 20, 30 years and quit. Um, but the habit is really, really tough to kick. And like, it's one thing to say I'm going to quit smoking because I want to, or because my doctor told me so. But is that a good enough reason why? You know, like, is that a good enough reason why? Like, I had to quit because I wanted to perform optimally in terms of fitness, and of course, I care about health as a fitness professional. So, you know, I needed to quit. So that was my why. So that why was good enough to give me the fuel to be able to, you know, and the strength to push through it and be resilient. And now, you know, I'm out of it, the other side. I believe if you look at anything in life, you know, to make any decisions or even just to live life itself, you need a why. You need passions, you know, as you're talking about. And I believe the exercising of those passions is just like mindfulness meditation. Because if you think mindfulness meditation is just making you present in the moment, you're not thinking about anything else. You're just being very concentrated and not allowing the monkey mind to, you know, spatter around. So things like climbing, you know, rock climbing, like free soloing. You know, you must have seen Alex Honnold
Yeah,
and
yeah,
El
yeah,
Capitan.
yeah.
Jeez, I mean, that's probably the biggest representation of physical meditation.
Mm.
You know, I admire it so much because one slip, one slip, and we all know what's going to happen. You know, so he's completely in the moment, concentrated, practicing on his breathing, not allowing his mind to stretch out over this way or this way, just being very concentrated. So I believe the practicing of any passion, you know, that really takes you in the zone, whether it's art, you know, drawing or writing or anything, is the same as mindfulness meditation. And probably so many people in this, on this earth and in this Western society don't possess a true passion. You know, how many people do you know that really know their passion and exercise them regularly? You know,
Minimal.
yeah, yeah. Instead of just working, turning up to work that maybe you're not interested in, and then going to sleep, and then repeating, you know, for years and years, people can spend doing that without any true love, you know, any activity that every part of them is so inspired by and wants to grow and enjoy. You
Where did you learn how to write as well as you do? You know, to be able to describe things the way you do and talk about things the way you do.
know, it's a good question.
No pressure.
uh, Do you know what? I've always loved writing. As I said in the beginning, I've always loved writing. And as a kid, you could find, my mum actually just sent me photos just the other day of some of my old writing. It didn't make any sense, but I was describing nature when I was about 6 years old. I just described nature. And I just kind of always had a passion for it. Always had a passion for writing, telling stories, and just being able to describe. And I mean, I do a lot of reading, and I'm lucky enough to come from a family um, and be surrounded by people who are intellectual, people who and allowed me the freedom. Like my parents allowed me the freedom to question things and make my own choices and beliefs. And they didn't try and shove anything down my throat. They didn't try and shove any ideologies down my throat. You know. So I was given free rein to be able to experiment with things and my own preconceived ideas about reality and test them. And yeah, so I suppose it just came through that, you know, just my life experience.
Do you think traveling is like opened your mind up a lot to how you see the world and so forth? Because I know you went away with your girlfriend quite recently.
Mm.
I have no idea where you went. I can't remember. I think, but it looked cool, you know, and you looked buzzing and happy. So that's always a plus. But do you think it opens your mind to the world around you rather than kind of this box chimp man's head mentality of like Hastings is the only thing in the world, you know?
Yeah,
Hastings is
yeah,
life.
yeah. Yeah, for damn sure, traveling helps, bro. Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have quite a few traveling experiences. That was one, a really great one too. And what it does is it opens your mind and makes you realize and exposed to the infinite expanse of possibilities that there are out there for you. So I feel like that's a really important thing. Whether you're from London, you know, a big city, or you're from Hastings, you know, a medium-sized town, or New York or LA or wherever, it can become very easy to be isolated in that little microcosm, you know, and then zoom in even more than that, your local community and maybe your friendship circle and your parents and the way that you've been conditioned by your family and society itself. You believe that that's reality, you know. But then go traveling and you're catapulted into some completely almost alien world, alien reality, a different culture, you know, and you realize that there's a whole infinite expanse and array of ideas, songs to be heard, and you know, food to be tasted, and sights to be seen, you know. And it's and also if you're someone like me who's quite insightful and I really respect nature and I always look to nature for answers, and when you're out there and I mean, we live in England, so we've got the beautiful sea and we've got the beautiful countryside. But say we went to Morocco and you have the desert, the Sahara Desert, and different barren lands. And Italy, obviously, got a huge expanse of nature, and it just you see so much natural wonder and splendor. And I just kind of, I'm really receptive to it. So it just opens my eyes that this world and this reality that we're living in is just infinitely beautiful, and the people in it are infinitely different and beautiful, and it's not good to be closed-minded, you know, in my opinion.
No, I agree, man. Like, I think when you have conversations with people, you can kind of gauge whether someone's not open to other ideas or the world in any sense of the foot, like any sense. You're like, oh yeah, so have you ever travelled or seen anything before, or like, do you want to go out here into nature? Do you want to go for a swim in the sea, like, and feel the cold? No, well, I don't want to do that.
Mm.
Like, well, bruv, like, why would you want to sit on the fucking sofa and watch EastEnders? Like, what,
Yeah, yeah,
do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, what are you running from? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
they might not know they're running from anything, but they are definitely running from something. Like, running from time, whatever. Like, it's wasted, you know?
I think people are also fearful, you know. People are fearful, man. Like I feel like you can see that a lot in when talking about political issues. people are fearful of change and they're fearful of being out of their comfort zone. You know, so for some people in our local town, Hastings is their comfort zone. Maybe it's all their family have ever known. It's all they ever know, and it's all they're destined to ever know, according to them. You know, like what you're talking about. Um, uh, but yeah, like I say, if they just open themselves up a little bit. I mean, it's tough here because it's changing now. But I mean, in terms of diversity and things like that, you know, it's pretty one way. Obviously, there's not many people from different backgrounds, but it is changing now. So, like you see in London, when there's a huge metropolis of people from all over the world, people there are more exposed to different cultures already, so they may be already a little bit more open-minded, you know, a little bit more progressive. So when you're down here, you find people, you know, got a little bit more of a traditional mindset, but I'm sure that will change. Um, but yeah, I find it fear in terms of closed-mindedness with traveling and experience of other cultures. I think it's just fear, and I think if those people were catapulted into those situations, they'd love it just as much as me and you.
Yeah.
They'd love it just as much as me and you.
That's it, man. Like seeing the sunset. You know what I mean? Just those little
Mm,
simple things can be stuff that you think like the amount of people I see on say Instagram, they've got up early and they've seen the sunset and they're like, "This is beautiful." And to
mm,
some people, that sounds gay in the sense
mm.
of, "Oh, mate, do you want to watch the sunset or the sunrise? Like whatever." Nah, mate, it's a bit gay. Like I'd rather stay in. And then when they do it, they're actually like, "Oh, mate, this is proper nice, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah,
this is
yeah.
proper chilled. Like this is well nice." And I'm like, "Yeah, obviously." You know,
Mm.
because I wouldn't recommend it if I thought I was just gonna like hold your hand and start kissing you. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to woo you. I'm trying to offer an experience that's gonna
Mm.
maybe help change your perspective and be the smallest thing. Um,
I mean,
go on.
those things are so taken for granted. You know, like a sunset, we see that every day, of course, and those people have seen that every day, and they just don't know. They don't see it as something to be appreciated. But I'm sure with a little bit of change, you know, just if they really quieted their mind, didn't think about maybe the social stigmas that would come with watching the sunset, and they really were just present in the moment and watched it, they would, like you and like I would appreciate its majesty because it is. It's majestic. I mean, if we're being honest, what the hell is that in the sky anyway? You know what I mean? What the
Yeah,
hell is that? And the moon as well, and the stars and everything. Us talking here on this laptop, which is being transferred on some crazy magical Wi-Fi signal. You know, like what's it? What is anything? What is everything? I think everything is to be revered and respected because it's all amazing, you know. And but I haven't always, like I said, I haven't always thought like that because I know how it feels. I'm in a privileged position to know how it feels to be closed-minded and to be one of those people. Like, you know, only a few years ago, when I was an angry teenager, if you would have asked me that question, I probably would have said the same thing. What the hell do I want to look at a sunset for? Do you know what I mean? But like, it's because I was closed off. I had this barrier around my eyes. I was veiling my eyes from the true beauty and connectedness with everything around us. You know?
yeah. I mean, I think in the sense of like the sunset and stuff like that, you find that are people actually aware that it's even going on? And what I mean by that is like you're just driving back from work, the sun setting,
Mm,
you ain't focused on that shit. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
Like
mm,
when do you actually sit there and think about how mad the world is in the sense of how it all works? The fucking sun in the sky, whatever you want to call
mm.
it, is heat. Like that's giving us fucking
Yeah,
food, life. You know, you've got the
yeah, yeah,
moon, like lighting the sky up at night. The stars,
yeah,
like, is it all just coincidence? Who the
yeah.
fuck knows? Do you know what I mean? But I don't think it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's something there. Like something
Mm,
has happened. You know, like whether you believe it, God, fucking whatever the story, doesn't
yeah.
matter to me. I just believe there is like maybe some divine purpose, something else. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Whatever.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's funny because I was having this conversation literally earlier on today with my dad, and I mean, I'm not going to profess that I know the answers to any of that, and I don't believe anybody should because I don't believe anybody truly knows the answers to the meaning of the universe or why we're here or anything. But something that I do proclaim is that I believe the only thing I can truly say for myself that I know to be true is the fact that this life that we're here to experience is just that we need to experience it in its fullest, you know. We need to learn our lessons and kind of travel through life. And where you gone?
I'm still here, bro. Sorry, mate. My
You know,
TV was about to turn off. I was like, oh
and
shit.
and yeah, do our journeys. And I can't really say that I think too much about the meaning of it all, because I can't. Because in the end of the day, it's a unfathomable scale to us. I can only comment on what makes sense to me in the nature and the world around me. Which might or may not reveal clues about the fabric of the universe itself. I'm not sure, but yeah,
What are
it's a
your?
mystery.
Yeah, it's a mystery to all of us, man. What do
Mm,
we actually know? Like,
mm,
we fucking live, we die. That's about it. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
I think that's
mm,
probably the only thing we know. Other than that, it's all science and theorized, and this works this way, and
mm,
the body works this way because it's been discovered like this. But
mm,
everything's kind of man-made, I guess, or man thought of. Um,
mm.
I'm sure some SJWs would be out there going, "You can't say man-made." Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, human made, man,
Yeah,
human made.
human
But
made.
then you transhumanist, and it's like a thing made, then thing, because if you want
Yeah.
to be a unicorn. But
Mate,
yeah,
I'm
it's
a unicorn.
it's true. Everything that we believe we know has only ever been known through the lens of the human mind. You know. So, I mean, yeah, it might make complete mathematical sense. It might be known as complete mathematical fact that 1 + 1 = 2 in our human experience, through our human lens and through our five senses. But what if to an alien or in another dimension, or me in another equal dimension, what if that isn't the truth, how can we ever truly know? I think I can't remember who said it, but there's a great quote: "The wise man truly knows that he knows nothing."
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's the best, one of the best sort of quotes that people should try and think about in their life is like, I don't know anything, but I think I know everything, or I think I know everything, but I don't know anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Like,
yeah,
because
yeah.
everything's always changing. Do you know what I mean? From when I joined the fitness industry to now, like, there's been massive change in the sense of science and how to do warm ups and cool downs, and now foam rolling and resistance bands. Like,
Mm,
all of that stuff when I qualified was like pretty much not heard of. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, go on the
mm.
treadmill for 5 minutes, hop off. We're gonna stretch. Okay, you're gonna touch your toes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, because an average personal trainer didn't know that much.
mm,
You'd have to go
yeah,
and see a physiotherapist or whatever. Because of the internet now, obviously, information is so accessible. Like,
mm,
you're getting better personal trainers for that, better fitness fanatics, whatever, who are
mm,
like, yeah, man, you need to be doing these stretches to like increase your mobility. It's going to help you
mm,
lifting, roll yourself out. You know,
mm.
I have no idea how I got onto this subject. So
Well, you talked about things changing, and
yeah,
it's true. Like things do change, and we can't know anything as fact. I mean, that's something that science preaches itself. I mean, that just the existence of science, because what it is somebody theorizes something, hypothesis, and then it's proven until it's unproven, and then it's just a procession like that. You know, we used to believe in the geocentric model. That everything revolved around the Earth, and then it was proven wrong, and we have the heliocentric model now, but it might change again. We never know. It's the nature of the way of things. It's the nature of the universe. Everything's temporary and ephemeral. Life comes, life goes. Rains come, rains go. It's just the way it is.
do you
And
get?
I find that's the beautiful thing about life. It's the temporary nature of things that truly make it magical and majestic.
I think for people that are in a dark place as well, that's one of their vices that they should hold on to, is that it is temporary. That emotional state that you're in, those thought patterns, whatever, they will
Mm,
go. Like my friend said to me, like a cloud covering the sun. Eventually it'll pass. Like, it's not going to rain every day. It's
mm,
just grinding and difficult situation to be in. But if you hold on, like, those patterns will change. You know what I mean, those thoughts will change. You got to take a little bit of action, obviously, to pull yourself out of that hole. But it's not permanent.
for real. For real. Yeah, and also a big thing that I'd like to say to people in those negative mindstates is that positives can be found and light can be found in those dark times. You know, light can be found. You are diamonds are made in the rough. I know it's a cliche, but it's such a good phrase. You know, like when you go through pressure, when you go through turmoil and turbulence, and you come out the other side, you come out stronger, more experienced, wiser. You know, there's always, like I said, there's no such thing as a negative occurrence. Positives can be found in everything. You know, like I write a lot about, you know, the essence of life and death, and you know, it's quite a accepted notion that death is a negative. You know, the obvious positive out of death is that populations don't rise too much, and you know, another is that our energy is recycled into the earth. You know, I watched a great program about Yellowstone National Park and about how the introduction of wolves, which a lot of people thought was going to be a terrible thing, it actually like balanced out the national park, and everything went back into balance. You know, because there was just the right amount of death of the deer species, which had eaten all the shrubbery and the vegetation, which has allowed all of these collateral things to happen. You know, it's just a big balance. It's one big balance. And again, I don't know how I got into this subject.
It just fucking happens, doesn't it? Just happens.
It does happen.
Nah, I mean, I can agree that a lot of people see death negatively, but in certain countries they'll fucking have like a massive parade celebration, like they celebrate it. Do you know what I mean? It's like the passing through. I mean, probably a religious, probably some sort of religious meaning behind it. But they kind of celebrate. You know, you're passing through. Like, let's celebrate your life. It was great. You're now on to the next chapter. You know.
Yeah, man. Precisely, and that's what I believe it is. I believe it's just a transition. You know, I believe it's just a transition, and I'm not going to go too in depth because I'm not sure. But what I do know is that in the things that you see around you, so I write a lot about plants, you know, and the flowers. You know, they blossom, and just like us, we blossom and we reach teenagehood, adulthood, and we go about our lives and perform our functions, and then at some point, you know, when the seasons change, we'll start wilting, and then eventually we die. But we're transferred into the earth, and that is the recycling. And I believe that's what happens. You know, maybe we reach a higher or a different plane altogether. You know, nobody can truly know. But for me, the concept that everything just comes to one big halt, and this train that we've been riding, this train of life and experience and love and eating and hearing and singing and dancing and exercising and, you know, love making and all of it, everything, you know, it's just going to come to a big stop. I don't believe to be true. I believe that there are lessons that you take with you on this transition, you know. And there's a lot of ancient faiths, you know, like the ancient Egyptian faith, the Assyrian faith, and loads of others that believe the same.
So, what's your stance on sort of? Do you believe the Earth's round or flat? Well, I'll just throw this in there for you. But just throw it in there.
I see you've discussed this with people.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? Yeah, if you want my honest answer, right? With my stupid brain that doesn't understand maths and you know, sort of monkey-like, I can't just imagine on a practical scale the spherical shape. But I'm not going to argue that the Earth is flat. It does make more practical and logical sense for it to believe it's flat. But then you can't explain if you were to walk in a certain direction or sail in a certain direction, and you made sure that you stayed on the same line of latitude or longitude, and you did that, you'd reach the same point. And you couldn't do that if the Earth was round, you know, I guess. But I mean, that kind of subject, I don't usually delve into. I'm not sure. I've never been to space, so I've never seen the shape of the Earth. So
I think that's the thing for me. I mean, I don't believe the Earth is flat, but there's a movement there. So, and I haven't seen it. And if I don't see it, I don't know. You know, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go with science. I'll say it's spinning and whatever. But again, like, how the fuck do I know? Do you know what I mean? What do I know?
We don't. Yeah. And I mean, like, in a sense, we're fed that information. You know, we're fed the conventional theory that, you know, the Earth's a sphere and, you know, that space is what it is and everything is what it is. We're fed that, and I feel like, to a certain degree, I've questioned the conventional thinking in a lot of subjects. You know, about, you know, my religion. Obviously, I'm not Christian, and my science doesn't exactly go in toe with the mainstream, and my view of history is slightly different to the textbook. But there's a certain amount of information that we either have to or don't have to accept. And I suppose because I haven't got any, because like you said, I've never been to space. How can I have a perspective? How can I have a view? I mean, I subscribe that the Earth is spherical, but if somebody wanted to put me up into a rocket and let me have a look, I'd be willing to.
Willing to
willing
go.
to. Mm,
Yeah, I
you know.
mean, for me, it's like I'll go. So I'm like a balls deep guy, right?
Mm,
Like I'll go. Fuck it. NASA fake the moon landings, yeah.
mm,
And
mm,
then and then if someone's telling me NASA's faking the Earth's round, I'll entertain it. There's people out
mm,
there that
mm,
are like, nah, NASA faked the moon landings, but the Earth's definitely round, mate.
mm,
And I'm
mm.
like, nah, like what? So you can't believe that you believe they'll lie about the moon landings, but you don't believe that they'll lie about the shape of the Earth. Do you
I
know what I mean?
suppose yeah, but what's the reason? Because people don't do things without, financial reason or hierarchical reason. What's the reason for lying that the Earth is spherical? That would be because I understand the reason for arguing that the moon landings, because they were in the race with the Soviet Union and they wanted to prove America was, the best at everything. So they got up there. I'm not sure where I stand on it either, but you know what? I wasn't there, so I can't fully comment
Well, it goes
on
back
that.
to that saying, doesn't it? Like about knowing everything but knowing nothing. You know, it's like
Yeah,
fucking. I might believe that the moon landings are fake. It doesn't mean it's true. Like, and
mm,
I'm open to the possibility that they're not fake. Do you
mm,
get what I mean?
mm,
Like, I'm not 100% saying to you the moon landings were fake. I'm saying there's a
mm,
slight chance, or there's more than a slight chance there is. But if they
mm.
were real, I'm not shocked either.
Yeah, yeah. Of course. And you know what? At the end of the day, who cares? I'm sure one day we will get to the moon. I'm sure one day we will. I feel like there's definitely a lot of conspiracy theories, which I do subscribe to. And I mean, I don't know if we should get into it because we will go down a rabbit hole. But there's some that have been declassified. I can't remember their names, but a lot of atrocities really have been undertaken by governments on their own people, and a lot of things. I believe that everybody should take it upon themselves to take the things that they hear with a pinch of salt. You know, to always question things, not to be schizophrenic, but to always question things. And does the evidence add up? Um, like it's a well-known fact that uh, just before the initiation of World War II, Hitler said that the Reichstag, which was like Germany's parliament building, was burnt down by the Jews or socialists or something like that, which gave him a scapegoat to target that particular demographic. And that's a well-known thing that he did that.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
And America and England have done the same, in different instances. They've been proven to have done the same in these declassified files. What's the ship in Vietnam, which was blown up to bring America into the Vietnam War?
Pearl
Oh,
Harbor? Not Pearl Harbor, is it? Is it Pearl Harbor?
but that was World War II.
Yeah.
Vietnam War. There was another one.
My
I can't
history's shit.
remember. Those
I
my
didn't
modern history.
I didn't pay attention enough. That's my problem. Which
But
is a shame
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a good subject, history. Like I think people should get educated on how the world used to work, and you'll find out a lot of information. Maybe don't look too mainstream. Maybe go to the
Mm,
library and read a couple of
mm,
funky books, but some like I think your intelligence is good. Like the way you talk and stuff is kind of like a philosophical way of philosophy and stuff like that.
History is super important, I believe, as an individual to look into because you can see how the powers that be back then in those times operated, and maybe you can see the correlations between how they're operating now. And you got a good bullshit detector, because back in the day there was an untold amount of oppression and tyranny released by the governments and kings of people. And you can see that same kind of thing happening now with our governments and with big business and laws that are made. And yeah, it's terrible. But also on a deeper meaning than that, because that's all quite superficial, on a deeper meaning than that, on a more human level, um, where did our great civilization, or civilizations, should I say, and our great race Where did they come from? How did that start? What was the catalyst for that? What was the spark? Was it aliens? Like a lot of people believe. Was it the stone ape theory? Like Joe Rogan and Dennis McKenna are proponents of. I like to entertain it all because who knows? Like we said, who knows?
Yeah.
I, I'm personally go on, mate. Sorry.
No, no, no. It's good, mate. Like, I'm listening. I'm entertained. What's your personal view? Go.
I'm personally really interested in the fact that, well, not the fact I shouldn't say that, but the theory that human civilization, civilized civilization, was initiated far, far earlier than conventional history would have you believe. I think we were hunter-gatherers in conventional history until about 7,000, 8,000 years ago, until we started having our first cities with the agricultural revolution and things like this. But there's a few good proponents. It would be good for you to have on the podcast, actually, a guy called Graham Hancock and Randall Carson.
Yeah, I spoke. I've not spoke. I listened to them on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
Proper cool guys. I've tried reaching out to Graham, didn't get a response, unfortunately. But maybe I'll try again.
Yeah, try again soon, man. But they're proponents of it, and I find it very interesting. There's a lot of evidence to back up the fact. And I find there's a big link between the conventional theory that we were pretty insignificant, 7,000 years ago. We had no real knowledge of the universe or of ourselves, until about 7,000 years ago. And also this new conventional idea of science, which is that everything's an accident and we're insignificant in this universe. We don't play too big a role, and we know our functions are quite small. I believe that those two go hand in hand. And I like to view it from a perspective that we are important and that we have had this knowledge for a long time, and there's a reason that we feel this connectedness with each other and with the world around us. I believe it's all linked.
I'm gonna have to end it there, bro, because I've got my dinner.
Okay, man.
We've been going for 51 minutes anyway, so we made good time. Gone quite quick,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
We'll podcast again, definitely, because I think we could go down some conspiracy theories. I'd love to hear your take on. And also touch on spirituality as well. Again, I'll keep up to date with your writing as well, so we can talk more about that.
Can I just say quickly, sorry, before you cut it short?
Yeah, no, that's far away.
Yeah. I'm writing a book called The Great Everything, which is due to be published at some point soon. So I mean, and you can find my blog at the eternalkeyhole.wordpress.com. I don't know if you can put a link to that or something like that, and it has my writing on it.
Yeah. I'll put all your links and everything in the description below. I always give guests at the end, anyways, 2 minutes to advertise the shit out of themselves. So you plugged it in there, anyways, which is sweet. But yeah, if people want to contact you, they can through Instagram. What's your Instagram account?
It's ot_wells. WELLS.
Yeah, I'll get that LinkedIn down below as well. So any links you want me to add in, Skype over, I'll drop them in. And for anyone obviously listening, the links will be in the YouTube video, so go check it out. Thank you for coming on, brother. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.